Across the pages of Scripture are stories well known, of giants defeated, seas parted, and heroes rising. But hidden between those familiar passages lie moments just as powerful. Stories of faith, of impossible miracles, and of a God who moves in ways no one could predict. These are three of those stories. 1. The shadow that moved backward. The miracle for Hezekiah. Our journey begins in the palace of King Hezekiah, one of Judah's most righteous kings. Yet even the faithful are not spared from life's darkest moments. A fatal sickness struck the king, leaving him weak and near death. The prophet Isaiah delivered a message that pierced the room like a cold wind. Hezekiah, set your house in order. You will not recover. The king turned his face toward the wall, away from people, advisors, and earthly help, and prayed with raw honesty. He reminded God of his devotion, his obedience, and his desire to serve. Tears soaked his pillow, and his voice broke beneath the weight of fear. But before Isaiah could leave the palace courtyard, God sent him back with a new message. Tell Hezekiah, I have heard your prayer. I have seen your tears. I will heal you. Hezekiah asked for a sign, something to anchor this promise. And God answered with a miracle that defied creation itself. Outside, sunlight cast a shadow on the steps of the palace, steady, unchanging, moving only forward. But suddenly the shadow reversed, sliding backward 10 steps, as if time itself bowed to the command of God. In that moment, Hezekiah knew, the Lord who governs time also governs life, and no situation is ever too final for him to restore. Trust the Shunammite woman, a faith that would not let go. Far from the royal palace, in a quiet village of the north lived a Shunammite woman, wealthy, respected, and known for her generosity. Whenever the prophet Elisha passed through the region, she prepared food for him. Eventually, she built a small upper room, a peaceful place where he could rest and pray. She asked for nothing, expected nothing, but Elisha wished to bless her. By this time next year, he said, you will embrace a son. The promise came to pass. Her child grew, laughed, and filled their home with joy, until one tragic day in the fields when he suddenly cried out in pain and collapsed. His mother held him on her lap, helpless as his breath faded away. She did not weep. She did not collapse. When Elisha returned with her, he shut the door behind him and prayed earnestly over the lifeless boy. Then he stretched himself over the child and warmth began to return. The body trembled, the chest rose, and the boy opened his eyes. A mother's grief transformed into praise, a miracle given to a woman whose quiet hospitality had moved the heart of God. The Gideon Hezekiah's army of 300, victory against all odds. Our final story takes place on a windswept hillside overlooking a valley filled with enemies. The Midianites were a vast and violent force, numbering in the tens of thousands. Opposing them stood Gideon, once a timid farmer, now chosen by God to deliver Israel. But just as Israel prepared for battle, God spoke words that seemed impossible to obey. Your army is too large. Thousands were sent home, then thousands more, until only 300 men remained. 300 against an army as numerous as locusts, 300 armed not with swords, but with torches hidden inside clay jars, and trumpets clutched in trembling hands. Under the cover of night, Gideon and his tiny army surrounding the valley. At the sound of his signal, the jars shattered, light suddenly piercing the darkness. Trumpets blasted through the camp, echoing off the mountains. Confusion swept through the Midianites. They drew their swords, not against Israel, but against each other. Panic turned the mighty army into its own destruction. Victory belonged to Gideon, but the glory belonged to God, who proved once again that he does not need great numbers, only willing hearts. Closing 3 stories, 3 miracles, 3 reminders that God works in ways we cannot predict and cannot limit. A king sees time reverse, a mother receives her child back from death, and a small trembling army witnesses victory through obedience alone. These lesser-known moments whisper to us still that when the situation feels impossible, when the odds are against us, and when hope seems too far gone, God is already crafting a miracle.